if we need to make any more changes, but we can read through it again. Is that good with everyone real quick? Alright. A financial emergency must be declared by the board prior to taking any reduction in force actions. A financial emergency declared shall be effective for only one fiscal year at a time and shall not be declared by the board for a second consecutive year unless qualified by additional reductions. I don't think we need at a time. It is recognized that the board has the responsibility to maintain good public elementary and secondary schools and to implement the educational interests of the state, consistent with state and federal educational requirements, including district improvement plans, accreditation requirements, and other school-based issues. However, recognizing that it may become necessary to eliminate certificated staff positions in certain circumstances, this policy is adopted to provide a fair and orderly process should such elimination become necessary. The board has the sole and exclusive authority to determine the appropriate number of certificated employees and to eliminate certified staff positions consistent with the provisions of the state law. A reduction of certified employees may occur as a result of, but not limited to, other conditions necessitating reductions. The following examples are curriculum or program changes, negative changes in the financial conditions of the district, decrease in student enrollment, including overall by program, by grade, or by school, or staffing limitations of the district. The need for implementation of a reduction in force for the elimination of certified positions is left to the sole discretion of the board. The decisions made shall be based on the information provided through the use of policy 5740F, which is the form that we use to
rank
people. Yes. The board may choose to implement a reduction in force through the following: the elimination of an entire program or portions of a program, the elimination of a position in certain grade levels only, the elimination of position by a position by category, the elimination of a position in an overall review of the district. The district may adopt policy establishing an equitable method of recalling individuals subject to a reduction in force if positions become available subsequent to the reduction in force. We have not done that yet, correct? Okay.
We talked about just putting it in the procedures.
Okay. So then we are on the reduction in force procedures, which I don't believe, oh, we stopped there. Okay. So,
I do want to add something.
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, we talked about you reaching out to Amy White, so we
Right.
had the scenario of if a school were to burn down,
right.
does the RIF get enacted specific to that school? And so I did put her response in writing, but she said no. It's similar to what we talked about. A school burning down enacts the RIF, and then the RIF is district-wide.
Okay.
Was what when we kind of were like, would we have that? Would we not? So anyway, I gave her our exact scenario that we talked about,
Okay.
and that's what she
Yeah.
said. Yeah.
All right. So, and maybe you can elaborate more when we get to that point. So the decision to institute a RIF and the selection of an employee or employees subject to such reduction shall be at the sole discretion of the board, except for the following limitation. The decision as to which employee or employees shall be subject to such reduction shall not be made solely on consideration of employee seniority or contract status. Prior to commencing action to terminate certified employee contracts under these procedures, the board will give due consideration to its ability to effectuate position elimination and or reduction in staff by voluntary retirements, voluntary resignations, transfer of the existing staff to another position for which the individual is appropriately qualified, and voluntary leaves of absence. Provided that, however, no transfer shall result in the termination of another employee. Procedures. Upon its declaration of a financial emergency, the board shall reopen the salary and benefits compensation aspect of the negotiated agreement to include the length of the certificated employee contracts along with the amount of compensation and benefits. The board and the Lakeland Education Association shall meet and confer in good faith for the purpose of reaching an agreement. If the parties in the negotiated agreement mutually agree, other matters contained within the negotiated agreement directly affecting the financial circumstances in the district may be discussed and negotiated. Prior to commencing action to terminate certificated employee contracts under these procedures, the district administration will determine what buildings, grade levels, and/or subject matters need to be reduced pursuant to this policy. The district administration will make a list of the certified employee's name, subject, grade level, and building. I think it should be names, subjects, grade level. Right. In the event a RIF is required, certified employees who are retained pursuant to this policy may be reassigned if suitable position openings are available in instructional areas for which they are endorsed and for which the principal has approved the transfer pursuant to Idaho Code requirements. In making a determination as to the individuals to be released pursuant to the RIF, consideration will be given to the following criteria. Each criterion below shall be considered in terms of the total context when selecting these employees who are to be considered for reduction. The following criterion will be considered: evaluations, educational certification and credentials, student and/or school activities, extracurricular activities, extra duties, professional contributions, longevity.
That needs to be spelled correctly.
If you,
Which one?
Oh, it's not spelled correctly here. Somebody must have already fixed it.
Okay.
if
Okay.
we
The longevity.
change
I'm like, it's
the-
not spelled right here.
I made a copy of the form, remember, and was
Right,
playing
right, right,
around with that
right.
piece, so if we end up going with the one I changed,
We'll have to
we may-
reorder these?
Mhm,
Okay.
Yeah.
Longevity, tiebreaker considerations. All forms will be jointly reviewed by the district leadership team and the LEA leadership team. All contracted employees will be scored by the HR director using policy 5470F. RIF considerations will start with the lowest score.
Okay, I have a question about that real quick. So, well, I'm just saying, so it's one person's job to score them, right? So, is there any checks and balances like with that person to make sure that they scored correctly? Is what I'm saying is, do we just want one set of eyes on those scores?
Well,
Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
I think due to the fact of the nature of what it is, it's just a transference of what's on their IPLP.
but not in its entirety, because Brooke only has access to our IPLP, but she does not have access to all of the other information that she would need in order to fill out the bulk of this here. So, I mean, when you start looking at some of the additional things that are here, she wouldn't.
What would she not
She wouldn't
have?
She wouldn't know what committees I'm on. She wouldn't know what necessarily what activities I advise I mean, she'll know the paid positions for sure, like anybody who's got a paid position. But there's a lot of stuff that is taken into consideration that's not paid that she would have to do a survey or ask the building administrators for that.
Mhm. She would,
That's how I saw it done, is like, yeah, the administrator would basically be
with Brooke.
filling that form out with Brooke, wouldn't they?
Well, your
that, Jason?
administrator wouldn't know all.
It'd
the
have to be the
things either.
administrator,
They would
wouldn't it?
be
Correct,
random.
yeah.
Yeah, so I just
That's
don't.
how I picture it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even think so maybe there, this would be obviously something that we will hopefully never have to implement anyway, but then I guess that would mean that at some point perhaps each building administrator would have to send out a survey to all of their staff members to say, what activities are you currently participatory in? Committees, advisory, volunteer, whatnot, just so they have a
Yeah,
current.
cause your I mean, principals wouldn't necessarily know all the things you're endorsing.
Nope.
They wouldn't know.
That Brooke would
they
know
don't-
that,
Brooke
though,
knows
yeah,
all of
yeah.
that. They wouldn't necessarily know your contract status through the lens of if you're APE, if you're professional,
Mm-hmm.
those kinds of things. So they'd have to do it in tandem for sure,
Mhm.
because there's pieces that the building administrator would have, and there's pieces that Brooke would have.
Well, and then since some of these, like we said, we haven't quite gotten completely here, but when we take a look at like the professional contributions, again, he wouldn't know that necessarily that I participated in a cohort, or he wouldn't necessarily know that district
So would
leadership
it,
or.
would it be one of the steps in here is that if we have to enact a RIF, then we have a spreadsheet that people just
Yeah, that
fill
you
their
have to-
stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so instead of having
Yeah.
the principal send something
Yeah,
out, it's
yeah.
like, okay, if we're doing this, and I guess it would depend on if we're saying, okay, we have to do a RIF at the elementary.
Right.
You wouldn't have to do it at high school, so all elementary would have to, these are the committees I'm
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And then Brooke could check with the principal to verify
Or
if
volunteer
there was a
and stuff,
question. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
could just be that's part of our process,
Yeah.
is you're checking those things.
Yeah.
I just
The
don't
other
wanna,
piece is you could put it on the IPLP where you have to list everything you've been on for that year.
Can we do that with the new form?
You could upload a doc.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, that's something to consider, I suppose. Yeah.
I was just saying, I mean, that to me, that,
Yeah,
it
'cause
just puts a
Brooke-
lot of pressure on Brooke.
And,
I don't
and Brooke
know.
only has a small.
She's not
lens.
here to give.
I've done that on IPLPs under the leadership position, listed everything and anything.
Yeah, on the old one, I
Yeah,
listed everything that
yeah,
I've
yeah,
done.
True,
Um,
fair.
and-
I haven't really got
Yeah, I haven't taken a look
too
at
far
this new
along
one.
with
So.
the new form, if it's similar. Where is the leadership position on the new form?
I think it's at the very end of it when you're finalizing
Is it a
the
checkbox deal?
summative. It's a box and it's a narrative.
So we can, again, list them all with the teacher there as that's how I do it.
Yeah.
It would make more sense that it's in the IPLP,
Yeah.
and so then Brooke just has to question the principal if there's a question.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and then to me, it just brings back. I mean, I don't. Again, I don't. To me, I always feel confident before if I'm ever looking at numbers or any kind of data at all. If I'm putting that on, I want someone else to double check that as well, just to make sure that I haven't made any mistakes. So I would hate for something to happen where there
That's what
would be.
Brooke does with the CLD, like she and Olivia, and then sometimes she'll pull Lisa or myself in, so
Okay.
I would imagine that would be the same practice. That's a lot of
Yeah.
numbers to be looking at for one person.
Right. Yeah.
And
if,
it's,
if you're
I
talking.
mean, on top of, all the other stuff she.
And that's what I was thinking. I'm looking at more Brooks' lens as far as I don't know if she wants to be the only one
Could
in
you
charge.
say HR director / district leadership, because the only other people that would look at those would be Lisa or I. We wouldn't let other people look at them.
Yeah.
Because it's people's personal IPLPs.
Right, but doesn't the building administrator look at
Yes,
those?
yes,
So
yes, yes.
if we state the HR director and building administrator will award the
Yeah.
points on policy 5740F.
I think that's where.
I would record, not reward, record, or, because it's not necessarily that I'm sitting down and rewarding those points, I'm
Well, it
acknowledging.
says
Awarded.
points awarded,
On our
so,
form, we
um,
could tweak that if we.
yeah. So, points allocated, I mean, it's more of
I just pulled it from Coeur d'Alene, so.
okay, so,
Change it, don't change.
so what do we want it
You
to
could say assign points.
I just don't want the interpretation that I'm sitting down and I'm rewarding Jason and not Shannon.
Mhm.
It
That
doesn't
you
say
might get-
reward, it says
You would be
award,
doing that anyway.
which is the same as giving
Yeah.
or allocating.
Yeah,
We'll assign point values.
And then would they sign off on it? Whomever they were,
The employee.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because we have a challenge process in here, like if you didn't agree with it.
Yeah.
Because there could be like you've done something and it was
Right.
missed or, yeah.
Right.
Just seems like if we're doing this, then everybody should just know where they're scoring.
I don't
Period.
know if
Like,
that's the right word
everybody
either though,
should-
Michelle.
Yeah, I don't.
Because,
Value.
yeah, because the points that you're over there are the points being assigned to the person. So the points allowed versus the points assigned. So I don't know if value is the best word there. Allocated maybe was brought up, but, or maybe even assigned, I don't know, but, or given, if you just want to simplify it, but value
Or earn
Does
it?
it sound like that's the
Because
award
don't you
limit?
earn it?
Or do you just put points?
Yeah, just put
Points.
points. Yeah, you just put
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
All good,
Yeah.
Right.
simple.
Points there. Yeah. So
I'm sure we're gonna look at that again and change it.
we like coming up with different words. We're like a thesaurus.
Because are they really assigning the points though? Aren't they like?
Well, they're
Tabulate the points.
earned, points
Calculating
earned, perhaps,
the
points
points?
earned.
They're not
I don't
really-
know.
And they're not.
Like I said, I just pulled it from Coeur d'Alene's. So
Assigning to me sounds like you get 5 points, you get 4 points.
Yeah.
okay. Policy, all contract employees with consent.
They'll determine the points received
Sure.
on policy 5740.
Yeah.
Okay. And then it will just be the criteria, the points allowed, and the points.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did wonder though, did you add to the bottom part here, Lynn, where it
So-
said the ×3? And what is that ×3
Remember
based
we
on?
talked about, this was 2 times ago when Delaney was here.
Right.
Our conversation was, could we have a situation where you have a teacher that hasn't participated in sports, but is all proficient
Mhm.
on here, and then you have a teacher that maybe was a few basics, but then had some scoring, and so why aren't we weighting this? So remember we talked about
Right.
this was gonna be
Okay,
weighted higher.
so that's why,
because
so
of the
it's gonna be
instruction.
whatever they got ×3 is their
Just
overall
because
score. No,
that's the
no, that's fine,
only
I was
one
just,
that was
I was
weighted.
just wanting clarification on that, cause I wasn't sure where that, I
And
know that we
just
discussed it, yeah.
randomly said ×3, you know,
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
but we talked about that of, aren't we putting more value in what's happening in the
Right.
classroom versus
Well-
the,
And then we discussed also,
Yeah, I like that.
this is just, these are overalls, so like
Yeah.
at the bottom of our IPLP, okay, perfect.
but, and I didn't change
Yeah.
this one, I put another sample in, I added a few things, so if you guys wanna look at my sample, since we're kind of there, so the copy right there, revision 1. So one of the things we talked about last time was, if you had, remember we talked about, we'll put this in a formal plan, like, I have to give you access,
Oh.
sorry.
That's okay.
If you've had a letter of reprimand, or if you're on a formal improvement plan, or, you know, how do we represent that? And a lot of the way, Michelle, if you refresh it,
Oh,
it'll,
thank you.
it was, you know, does not have, and so I tried to put on here, I said no documented letters of reprimand or informal formal improvement plans in the last 3 years. Again, several, I looked at probably 6 districts and they had that piece, it was worded.
Yeah, that was kind of
on
intentional on
here.
my part, I didn't want it.
Right, so I don't know, I added it.
So I left it out,
We
so, but
talked
that's,
about
but
it.
I mean,
So I just
Yeah.
said I'll put it in there and you guys can talk about that, cause we kind of went around
I was trying
about
to keep the
that.
negative out, Lynn.
And it was negative, I didn't know. The other thing I added, so I took out all of the sport pieces, but I did add regularly volunteers instead of it did say just volunteers. So then, Jason and I talked about, do we give?
Question now.
Oh,
What does regularly mean?
I think we have to define that, that's why I highlighted it, like, I think we'd have to put something in parentheses, cause before it just says volunteers, and I'm like, does that mean once, does that mean weekly, does it mean monthly? And then at the if you keep going, under longevity, we did add the 25 plus or more years of completed service, because we do have people that are there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tiebreaker is where I put, so I pulled up the APE stuff, the leadership APE cheat sheet that we made, and said, okay, so if the tiebreaker would be you still have years of service to the district, you have a head coaching position, and then if you have elementary coaching position, so an elementary person could earn 4 points, just like a high school person could. And then if you're an assistant coach, because we kind of weighted that, the elementaries are club advisors, so that would be a way that elementary could earn the same. Because remember, we talked about this would just be a K-8 situation where they can, because high school would never compete against elementary, but K-8 could because of endorsements. And then if you were a volunteer coach at the high school level or at the middle school, because we're really talking about, then if you're a mentor, a master teacher, or you had a student intern that you've done, you could earn those. So that way, K-8 people, there was some side-by-side, so it felt more fair. We can change any of those, but I tried to just like, here's something that, to make it as
Yeah.
fair as possible for when you're talking about middle school and elementary.
Does it bother anybody else that there's no 3 category in there?
I think I didn't look at the
4-2-1.
points. I didn't look at the points, Jason.
Sorry.
And this.
Or you just
only-
change 4 to 3 then.
This would only apply
Still
to your
4-3-2.
previous year?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So not in the past, if you did a lot of stuff, it's, yeah. Fingers crossed, we wouldn't have to dig that deep into the well to get to where we're even there. I
Got a
mean,
couple things, the years of service had nothing about same district. So if that's the wishes, it should have in there in district or in the Lakeland School District.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
it's up above there, I'm sorry. Well,
No,
right
no.
there on the other one, it, I don't know, a couple of pages
The
prior.
other one was just how
Oh,
long
copy
you've
and
been
paste?
teaching.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then this one, the tiebreaker was specific to Lakeland School District. Because one of the conversations, I think 5 weeks ago maybe, was,
been
do we
ongoing.
want to benefit people that have been in Lakeland the whole time?
So is longevity specific to Lakeland, or is it specific to
We
teaching?
left it, and I can't remember that full conversation, but we left it specific to teaching. And then the tiebreaker was specific to Lakeland.
Okay.
and
And we
then,
can do whatever we want, but we've had lots of discussions about that, but at the last meeting, there was lots of conversation about it just feeling like, again, high school would never compete with elementary. You're truly talking about a KA cert person, which could be a middle school and elementary person. How does an elementary, because of how we have things set up, they can't earn those points, and so they would automatically be at a disadvantage. So I was trying to put stuff side by side, so it would feel more fair for an elementary person and a middle school person. So those qualifiers that I put in there, we could change them and we could go through that list, that APE list, but those were the ones that I'm like, we commonly do this and lots of elementary people participate in those.
to get a better understanding of this process for procedure, if we've acknowledged that, yes, we were gonna RIF, the first order of business is coming up with a number of how many to RIF, correct? And then you're identifying a department district-wide. But then once you do that, you're only putting those educators from that department or that building into this that have a basic or no?
oh,
It's, well,
sorry.
well, in our procedures, we talked about that, so, and then again, I don't think it's solidified because
Yeah.
I think it was Shannon last time that said, you know, if you had a teacher that had one basic, like they're in their 3rd year, but they're phenomenal, and maybe they had a basic in like domain 4 of some kind, like
Mhm.
nothing to do with instruction, but I don't know, it could have been report card or something there. Would that person automatically not get to be in the running if they're a phenomenal teacher? Like, does a basic automatically
Yeah.
qualify you as a lower score? We haven't solidified that. We talked a lot about that last time, and
So getting back to my hypothetical, let's say, okay, and I'm using it because it's right here, John Brown. All elementary teachers then would go through this process to be awarded a score.
so all just verbiage will matter in this one.
Yeah,
It will be all K-8 certified. So let's just say that we had to go into a RIF situation. The first thing you're gonna look at is category 1s because they automatically, so like, let's look at our current situation. We have, between category 1s and between resignations, we have 25 teachers automatically that we know are, so let's just say the board said we had to RIF 50 teachers, automatically 25 are, so then we're only talking about RIFing 25. So then I think they would have, part of that work would have to be, in my mind, tell me if I'm wrong, that it would have to be, okay, how many that would have to be at the high school level, right? What could you pull away so you're not impacting class? Like, what would have to be at the middle school level? So like English and math is hard because you have to have some, so like, is it like that would have to be part of the conversation. So let's just say that you decided at the high school, you could, maybe cut 2 social studies and 2 science. In my mind, those are the only people that go in the RIF deal. You wouldn't pull, and you would pull everybody certified in social studies. Like, that's how it works in my mind.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Am I
So what the
wrong?
department, so you're saying that the department that you're in, only the people in that particular department
But
would?
between both high schools.
But between both high schools, so all
Yeah.
social studies teachers from both Lakeland and
If you said you
Timberlake?
had to cut social studies, then everybody.
Anybody
would-
that has that
Yeah.
certification.
Well, but I
Yeah,
have that
but see,
certification.
like, but for example,
Well,
like,
That would throw the
I guess
wrench
in my
then
brain-
you have to go through and.
'Cause I have that
the
certification.
endorsements.
Right.
Because my endorsement, I have endorsements in government and history, so would I fall under that category? But I don't teach those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the fairest thing to do, because, I mean, you have a K-8 person who is certified to teach that, and at the above line, we say, you could, like, we might move somebody that has a special ed certification, they've never taught special ed,
Right.
but they're certified, but we need.
But wouldn't that be
we're
kind of
not
an
forced
after
to.
effect? Like, I wouldn't be part of the RIF process because you're not looking at getting rid of me, but you'd use the endorsement to potentially relocate me.
I think it's gonna be all how we write it.
Because that gets a little bit interesting because
Yeah, because you could have.
if I'm not, if what I teach isn't on the chopping block, but what somebody else is,
You
but
could
because I
have,
could,
you could have a history
Yeah.
degree
Yeah.
and
And then
never
the rest
have
of
not
the
taught
rest
history because you minored in Spanish or whatever, and you taught Spanish for 25 years, and now you're on the chopping block for history and you never taught it. I mean,
I've taught it, but yeah.
that's
And when you put it like that, that totally, I mean, I think that's how we write it, but that's the scenario we have to
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
about, is it
But you would never
specifically-
cut that position knowing then you would have to replace
Yeah.
the hire out after you
Right,
just
so
did a
is
RIF.
we have to have verbiage that says.
Yeah, so it's got- it
specifically
can't
what
be-
you're teaching.
so
And I
identify.
apologize if I derailed.
No, I think
No,
that's.
it's-
No, but-
No,
You
but
have to
like,
catch
I
all
can
that.
think of
You
though,
have to
like,
take into those contingencies.
but see, I could think of, there's scenarios where if you're cutting a program, that teacher still has seniority, so they shouldn't be cut. They should be moved somewhere else,
Yeah.
and the lower person on the totem pole should be cut.
Or like, what if you just moved into the history position? You know, you've taught English for the last 10 years, you
Mhm.
moved into the history position, then the next year the RIF happens in history, and then now you're part of this pool. I
Took
think-
one for
Yeah,
the team.
high
to
school to me
teach
is the
history.
one that would be the trickier one.
Thanks for your service.
Elementary, I
That's a
think
tricky
is
pick.
easy
You know,
because
yeah,
it's K-8
'cause some
certified.
schools
See, I
for
think
sure.
that you look at all of what people are endorsed in, and then you have to, like.
Well, that's what I
Yeah.
originally said, is you would look at what, so then do you look at what they're endorsed in and then what they're currently teaching?
I don't even know that you have to, I
But
think
if-
you just
but-
look at endorsements.
But if you, like, so her scenario is if you just looked at endorsement, she teaches Spanish because she had a history degree, she's never taught history, would she be on the chopping block for history?
And
then if
No,
she
but I
lives
wouldn't
with
say
her,
though,
she's
she would be on
Spanish.
it, but see, but then I guess the question to be next though is, can somebody else teach Spanish that is, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no,
'cause-
yeah, I think high school's hard.
It's where it gets convoluted. It gets really tricky.
because I mean, I could teach health, but.
That's why we're not
doesn't-
gonna riff.
Then you get tossed in the health
I
department.
guess
and
now I'm a
You're
part of the
gone.
health department?
You're gone. Okay, we gotta get back to this though. We're never
Yeah,
gonna get this done.
I agree, I
I just don't
know the
want,
answer to that.
my biggest thing is I just don't wanna either put something in there that we have to follow that's gonna hurt us, or we don't put something in there that's, that
Right.
we don't
Right.
follow and it's gonna
Well,
hurt.
somebody
you know?
had an idea last time, and I think it's actually a good one, and I mean, not that I wanna drag out this policy, but we did talk about pulling out that paper and coming up with 4 or 5 scenarios. I
Yeah.
don't know whose idea it was.
Yeah.
Have
But
a
somebody said do a mock one.
Black and
I agree.
think it was you, Josh.
Yeah, I agree
That
100%.
said, do a mock one in here of playing it around
Yeah.
and like, okay, so that we work through those contingencies, because then I think it would make more sense to then put the verbiage in there, because right now we're trying to, and then you, we didn't think of that. That might be helpful.
So do we wanna do the form before we finish these procedures?
I think so. I think doing a mock in like a few high school scenarios, a middle school situation, I think would be
Well,
helpful.
and you could pull some of the middle school, like, I mean, I'm even thinking about just my department next year. We have a category 1, and if she's gone, we also have a retirement, and he's gone. So now, and there is no way that
We can all, right.
we can fulfill our state requirements without putting someone in at least one of
Or do you
those 2
pull from the
positions.
middle school?
So are we pulling from the middle school?
Yeah.
Are we pulling from Timberlake? Are we?
Right.
What is that?
Or are we, having teachers cover
Yeah, I
on their
think doing a
classes?
couple of mock would be helpful. Cause there's a lot of little things,
Right.
the high school is the one I think that will be hard because of all the endorsements.
I
And
tried,
don't
Michelle,
really
I
get-
hate this formatting with Google, trying to get things to line up. I know, I'm not a fan either, but,
It's not my friend.
so,
It is such a pain.
to do any try to formatting, oh, it's
Yes.
ridiculous, and then if you try to change bullets or numbers, it's ridiculous too, so. So I think kind of where we're hanging out then is in numbers 10 and then numbers 13, so.
Would you guys like the revision that the form I made? Do you guys wanna look at it? Are you on your computer? No, you don't have it. You wanna look at the,
I think it's.
here, we could just go
How
back
do
so she
you
can see.
tab in a cell in Google?
How do you create a new cell?
No, how you tab it?
Oh.
Right, shift tab.
Yeah, is this a touch screen or no?
No.
MacBook system's way
I know, I just did that. Every time I try to go help her and I try to touch her screen, she's like, I
the
just.
screen, how bad is the screen?
And I'm not like I mean, you guys can tweak it, change it. I just tried to split stuff that made it fair for elementary. So Shane, if you wanna look.
How do I make it go down?
I just wanna make this better.
You go over to the side thing and then pull it.
Is there a little arrow?
So we can make these smaller.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
What do you want to
Okay,
do?
so, okay,
Trying to
so
make
she added
that one
that.
column lighter and these ones,
Because
like
you would
this last
redistribute, right?
could be so
Oh,
much
The elementary?
smaller because
Okay.
So 2 points.
So it's just yours.
do you know what I'm trying to do?
The only thing maybe, Lynn, on your thing where you put the no documentation.
There's a better way to word that.
Well, and not only that, but you have you kept the yes or no format, but then you gave them 2 points. So do they get 2 points for the no, I would imagine then?
Then
Just
that
take
can
long
be the
criteria.
box.
So-
I think I
You
did
want
that at 11
all
o'clock
the
at night,
letters
so.
after the
I don't
domain,
know.
is that what you're
Sick
trying
of
to do?
excuses.
And I
Well,
I actually.
what I was trying to do was make sure.
Come on,
I wanted to make
11
these a little bit smaller.
Oh, yeah,
So change that if that
So
doesn't make sense.
Well, I don't know.
And we don't have to have it on there, but we talked about it.
No, and I told you, I intentionally left it out on
Right.
purpose, so the fact that you found it, it's fine, you can put it on
Yeah.
there.
Well, and the way it was worded in some of them were, it's not good. It's really negative.
Yeah, it was
It's like
super
double
negative, and I was
negative.
like, well, what does this even mean? So, yeah, the past 3 years makes sense, because obviously within the past 3 years,
Or shift into.
So all I'm gonna do-
Points if you
well,
have
here's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get rid of the
just
no, just
don't.
because it says no document letters of reprimand, and then it says yes, no, so I'm just gonna put documented letters of reprimand, yes or no, and then if the
Oh.
person circles the yes, then no points awarded, and if they
Yeah.
circle the no, then they get the 2
Perfect.
points.
Love
There you go.
Good job.
And if I hit delete, that goes backwards, yes?
I don't think this
Yeah.
one's it.
No, I think it's a yes, no.
Have you used a computer before?
I've never
The right
used
margin. Maybe
a
I have to
Apple,
reset the right margin.
documented letters,
It's the copy
Bring the
of
right margin.
redemption, copy of redemption.
Reset first.
documented letter,
I know this one too.
document, simple letters.
Oh, see, when I hit
No, but I
the
couldn't
control
find that
tab,
thing.
it takes me back over to here, which I don't wanna be on there, I wanna be on
That's why I
this one.
hate
Should I put
Google.
yes?
Because I think that's the one we're
Zero.
going to go with. And it's just formatting. I
Should I
can
put yes,
play with it
0,
later.
and no
It's
2,
not- it has to be-
and call it good there?
If we can just
Yeah,
make
I'm
it
gonna do that.
smaller,
Yes,
make it more
0.
condensed, it seems quite simple only,
And then
and having
And then procedure
No.
form too.
2.
So I think if you go
And
Oh, I
to
fixed
your
that if they would like
GED,
access. It's not doing anything.
That work?
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Email?
I gave
Email
full head
and go to
access to
Lynn.
all Lakeland users.
Okay.
okay.
Do you need to just refresh it?
I just don't like the whole regularly volunteers, cause I think,
I think we have to define that, that's partly why I highlighted
Yeah.
it. But before it just said volunteers, and I'm like, does that mean daily, weekly, monthly? Cause if we're gonna award points for that,
That's fine.
It needs to be.
it needs to be defined.
well, it definitely needs to be defined as non-paid, because I think that there are some people that
But
would
isn't
just say.
that the definition of volunteer?
You would think so, but there are people who don't volunteer for anything because they do things that are paid for and they consider that to be their volunteering.
Or they don't have time.
Well, a lot of us don't have time, but we're
So
still.
we're gonna be double non-paid volunteer.
Yeah, if you're paid for that.
That's
it's
neither
not-
here nor there, but they're gonna get their points for the coaching component versus
What
the
they want.
volunteer
Yeah,
component.
12.26.
Remember, I took the coaching out, it's a tiebreaker.
Cause I think if we made it.
Could she just 12, 20,
Yeah, if we want to put it back, but that was the suggestion last time because
January 9th.
people felt like
January 9th?
it's everyone else, middle school and elementary is at a disadvantage.
Well, why couldn't
There it
you
is. Yep, January.
keep the wording that you have, but put it back where it was? Like, the wording that you have is good because it's
We
coaching.
could
yeah.
totally do that.
So, I mean, I don't think,
Yeah.
I think the issue was not that the coaches were getting scored, it was
Yeah.
that we didn't have something comparable to the
Right.
elementary to
What is
make it
that?
equitable. And so this, the way you have it worded now
And I
makes
don't know
it
how you
very
want these
equitable, and so
numbers. Do you wanna,
if we
like,
just put it,
colon,
inserted it back
space,
in
number,
with
like
its own
that?
Do
category.
you want to do that?
I don't know, I kind of
Yeah,
like
'cause
it
you're
as
never
a
You like it
gonna
as a
compare
tiebreaker?
high school against
Right.
elementary.
So
Or
like
K
a
to-
middle school teacher could be coaching
I guess
at
I
high
could
school.
just-
But I still
Yeah.
feel like, I mean, and I, like, as a coach for a long
If you guys,
time,
if
I
you guys
feel
like
like,
it where it's at as a tiebreaker,
It
I'm
was
cool.
January
I'd rather
2nd.
bottom.
I feel like it should just be a
I don't
tiebreaker
necessarily
because,
like it as a tiebreaker, I
See, I
think
don't
it's
either, because I
valuable.
do think it should count for
But
something.
it's a
Maybe I'm the
valid
one with the
point
problem here.
of opportunity, does everybody have that opportunity?
but not everybody has that opportunity. I mean, I could,
That's why I moved it to a
Yeah,
tiebreaker.
okay, but then I'm fine with that.
because
too.
we've
That's
had
fine.
teachers in our building that have applied to be a varsity coach and not gotten it over somebody who doesn't even
Sure.
teach. And
Yep.
so they're losing that opportunity.
Okay, so then let's just leave it as is for now, because
I don't know.
And this will still go out to surveys,
Yes,
so we
right.
might get overwhelming
Yeah.
feedback of
Yeah.
like, we want to meet.
Yeah.
I
If we're
don't,
discussing
I'm not
it,
married for one way or the
I
other.
have no doubt that we'll be here in another 3 weeks over going over this one, so. Sorry.
She's helping with the formatting, because what I'm trying to do is make this so these are slightly smaller, so that this thing isn't quite so overwhelming.
Trust me when I say I've tried, but I
Oh, no,
cannot
no, I
stand
agree.
the formatting
I hate
of
Google.
Google, so.
Yeah, Google is not my friend.
That's like when she's asking you to do something, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing over here, so. Okay, well, I will give this back to you. I think we're gonna leave that as is, and when we get to that, there might be some more input, but I do like what you're saying with regards to trying to do some mock.
I'd accidentally
I mean, unless you
deleted
wanna
this
give me
as
like
for something I don't know where it went.
Because you're just
Just like coach
fabulous.
forever.
Well, and I struggled with that category too, because.
Shane, do you like what I put down there? Do you feel like that's fair?
Yeah, we're going through it.
I struggled with that
We're getting
category.
there.
We are
in the overall
technology
scheme of
challenged
things, just
this
because,
evening.
like you just
Mhm.
said, somebody might want to coach but isn't given the opportunity
7
to do
o'clock
so.
this morning, we might have done better.
Yeah. Look at that.
We found it.
Can I have the candy back?
Okay.
Can I have the candy back?
Yeah.
Well, glucose to cry.
Get my records.
You know how excited I was when I looked at my calendar and I had nothing on it for this weekend? I was like, yes. Nothing. I don't have to be anywhere or do anything.
So are you all doing mock on the form? Is that what you two are doing?
Oh, we're just looking at it.
Oh, okay.
We're just trying to find
Took
the
us a
form.
while to find the new form.
Okay.
The revised form.
It's literally linked in there.
Hey, the board kept me up late last night.
Yeah.
Kept me up late last night.
Speaking
so-
of, is next week's meeting at Lakeland or is it up at Timberlake or do we know?
It's Lakeland Middle, right? From
It's
here.
It's
on
okay.
out.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
It's supposed to be.
Oh.
Dang it, because there's senior.
Yeah, because it was requested that we alternate from the south to the north.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
I don't,
So where is it?
we can't really do a mock one unless we know
Apple?
people's.
Yeah, you have
It's
I
to
think
gonna
I-
be
you could
at
do one on
either
me.
Timberlake Middle or
could do
Timberlake
mine.
High,
Oh, okay.
whichever
Okay.
heights.
Yeah, but you'd be lying with your numbers.
Just,
Well, north, I was thinking like,
It'd just be really hard.
Wait,
because
understand?
My numbers would be
I
so
was
amazing.
thinking
Just
Middle
max
from here on out.
score.
yeah.
Max score, you don't even have to
Well,
score.
you know, meetings are a different story. Meetings are here, you're down in
We
the-
could
and I
make
don't
up
want
some
to-
But workshops
When
are,
we
yeah.
have to go
That's gonna be a workshop next week?
outside
Mhm.
for a board meeting, I want to be
Really?
near the board meeting.
Not that I'm
building.
aware of.
Next week is a special
You're
meeting.
putting your through
Correct.
that?
It's supposed
No.
to be a joint. Okay, great.
Is it a workshop meeting or?
No.
Oh,
It's a special meeting.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
gosh.
a board meeting. Yeah, it's a special meeting.
so it's not a workshop meeting.
Right. Next week. We'll just be talking, the board will be talking.
So anybody else who speaks, you
And
can
as-
get in trouble.
It is not a workshop.
Perfect.
It's not a
Not a
work
workshop.
session, it's a a special meeting.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a
Okay.
workshop.
We're all tired.
Come and listen.
Words
Don't
mean
participate.
something.
Well, it's senior night for wrestling, so I'm just trying to decide, am I doing that or am I going to this meeting? So. Okay.
Are
I'll check,
we
check the agenda.
good to go back to the,
Well, which form do you like so we can
I-
take off the one that we don't like? So, because I have two of them, so we have the
I,
revision one or
I think we
the-
liked yours.
we're
Mhm.
sticking with the copy of
Okay.
reduction.
Okay.
I'm gonna take off the other one and,
Okay,
okay.
so can we rename this so we know?
So-
it's the
What would you
current-
like?
Just the point here, how many years they have in service?
Well, what is it
Mhm.
referred to in the
20%.
policy or the
57,
procedures?
40,
Or, and then you'd add all that
Yeah.
up.
reduction in force.
All right,
Now, what about, do you think we do have people that go
Did you
25 to
rename it?
30? So do we need to?
Mhm. Oh. I did on
I mean,
reduction.
where do you draw the line?
Mhm.
I did on
Because you would
the,
have people that are.
oh, are you doing it?
Mhm.
this is
That
all
I've
for-
learned.
I mean, do you-
I did it on our agenda.
Perfect.
Just not
Okay.
the-
Probably not.
All right.
I mean, at that
You
point.
just put like 25.
Okay, are we sure
Oh,
we're on
that's
the
what-
right
yeah,
one?
that's what it says.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Okay, we are
yeah,
on the right
but
one.
Okay.
do you want, because you're,
But
it
we
goes,
still have to get
it
through
goes
this
up
little
5
part.
every.
Oh, yeah, there's
run,
still lots to
but
go
it stops
through.
at
Right.
25. Well,
We
do you
get
want
stuck
to
here.
honor the
So
25
going-
to 30
I
and
just
give
caught
them
that.
an extra point?
Nope, you're fine. Going back to 8,
Huh?
the HR director and building administrators will determine the points received on policy 5740F for the certificated employees considered for a RIF. Considerations start with the lowest score received, or with the lowest score,
You're back to the awarded.
Whatever. Lowest,
Not rewarded, awarded.
lowest
Given,
Allocate
allocated,
points.
Not emotionally bound in
Achieved.
any way.
achieved, lowest points achieved.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what were we like?
Yeah, that's-
No, I
Instead
just,
of allocate-
we were saying
I
allocated.
think allocate is the least.
Achieve sounds positive, but lowest is not. So-
Lowest.
So, what was the lowest you were able to
What is your
achieve?
golf score?
Oh, that would be good.
That was
Okay.
positive.
Sorry.
So, district leadership team and LEA leadership team will collaboratively work with the HR director to identify overall basic qualified. So I think we had decided we don't need this.
Yeah, we didn't
Is
like,
that part of-
yeah.
Because.
We don't ever have overall basic.
Right. Well, I think we just decided that we could get rid of a lot of these paragraphs because bottom line is.
You have a.
Oopsies.
Well, I think we said because of 8, that it just goes into the RIF form.
Right.
Yeah, and it's just the points awarded, because remember, we were initially trying to funnel it down a little bit, and we just said the fairest way to do this was just you do the RIF form.
Right. Policy 5740F will be used to create a score. So basically, this has already been determined by point 8. So we can remove this one. So I don't have to do that, do I? I can just in case we wanna go back and see what
Isn't-
we did.
Isn't number 7 like the ending once it's? I think 7 comes too soon, doesn't it? Am I wrong
All
on
right,
that?
7 states, all forms will be jointly reviewed by the district.
Because
think it's-
how
It
do we,
needs to
how do
come
we
after
review a
8.
form if there has been no
Right.
score?
See,
or-
I see it
So-
differently. I just see it as a qualifier. It's just that this is what's going to happen when it's complete, and then we start the process of doing it. It's just the qualifier that
Okay.
it's gonna be shared. That's how I read it, but
Okay.
if you guys don't like that, we can do it later.
Move it to the end of this process.
Although maybe I think what you're saying is, I don't think it's the 5470 form, I think it's the list of where we're focusing that's being jointly reviewed.
Sure,
Because-
that's what I'm saying.
Did I misunderstand?
No.
That seems to be a thing.
No. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's the right
yeah,
thing,
okay.
is we're deciding who.
We're
and then
creating
we're-
the list,
Yeah.
You
and
just
then we're
said it
going to
better
the.
than I did.
So,
Okay, so.
because those were the forms we were talking about with regards to like the,
Right.
yeah, the IPLP and who all
But
would be.
what we talked, I mean, we have to figure out how we start generating that list, and I think we find that out we do some mock ones.
Mhm.
And then, okay, so how do we want that? Because once we all review that, how are we determining the list? And then the rest of this is just the process of due process and all of that.
I mean, is there a way that you can pull, like, and look at everybody's certifications, like at the secondary level?
Brooke can.
If you're looking at everyone's certifications, then that would determine, you know, where you're at.
Well, anybody can look up certs.
But Brooke has a running list
Yeah,
of
to where you
everybody's
don't,
certs.
yeah, you don't have to do it individually.
Mhm.
I just would think that people with more certifications would not go into the pile, because you want at the secondary people with,
Well,
I
there
mean,
is
that
a,
would be
there's
a
a-
qualifier.
there is one that you
Yeah.
You get 2 points for
you
endorsement.
get 2
and so
points for
forth.
every endorsement.
But if we're talking
Question
about how you
is-
even get to the point where they're scoring you to possibly rip you, isn't that kind of what we're talking about? Or are we just gonna score everybody and then
Well, I
look
think
at
that's
that?
what we have to decide.
All right, so because I think we're kind of bouncing around
Mhm.
in this. And then maybe once we figure it out, we'll go back through and read numbers.
Yeah.
So all RIF considerations will be jointly reviewed by the district leadership team and the LEA leadership team prior to completing policy 5470F, which I hate calling it policy, but that's what it is. Then the HR director and building administrators will determine the points received on policy 5740F for the certificated employees. So maybe all certificated employees considered,
Yeah.
so all. So all certificated employee RIF considerations will be
Mhm.
jointly reviewed by the district leadership team and the LEA leadership team prior to completing policy 5470F. So those two teams are, so the board is giving
Who you want to I mean,
Direction.
programs,
right.
number of people.
Right, so then who's creating the list?
Well, so that's what we were talking about, so
Okay.
this is the scenario, so I'd like the two of you guys to chime into this, so let's just use our current situation. We have, between resignations and retirees and then category ones, which category ones at the end of the year go, so that's 25. So let's just say number wise, you say that we have to cut 50 people. Now we're saying 25 because of retirement resignations, category ones are automatically off. So now you're talking about 25.
But from there, you then have to determine at what levels.
You have to determine so let's just, elementary is easy because I think if you say I have to cut 2 or 3, then you're just looking at K-8 certs and you're doing that for everybody because a K-8 cert is universal. So this is the high school scenario. Let's just say that we look at high school and the direction from the board is that we have to cut 4 teachers at the high school level. And so then in my mind, Ryan and Jimmy would go, okay, I have to have so many ELA classes, so many math, so many blah, blah, blah in order to provide graduation requirements. So what they narrow it down to is they say we can lose 2 science teachers. As a district, we can lose 2 ELA teachers. So our question and debate
2
was-
history teachers.
or 2 history, whatever. our discussion was, this now goes to the endorsement conversation. So like Becca teaches Spanish,
Right,
but she is endorsed in history.
right.
So are we filling out that form on everybody that currently is endorsed in history, or everybody that's currently
Teaching history.
Well, and we need to add another element into this too. Like, I know you just said basically high school, but I could, if you have to, I mean, I've been in district for 21 years. I know I've been here longer than a lot of the middle school teachers that are teaching history.
Right,
So
because
if,
you could
if
teach.
you
could,
have to riff, or
We're
but
6-12.
but we can go down and teach.
Right,
Yeah.
that same scenario,
6-12.
exactly.
But
So
see,
that's where it gets
I don't
muddy.
think a RIF wouldn't, because I think it's the category of the RIF that and I could be wrong, but I don't see the board saying you need to lose 4 teachers, go pick them. I think it's do we have a program that we financially do not want to pay for anymore? Therefore, we're going to cut this program.
I think that's a scenario, but if you
mean-
got down to you did all of that,
Yeah.
and you still needed to say, we still need to cut 4 certified positions, what can we class size manage wise?
To be clear, when we say this certificated position, a certificated position is not just a teacher in the
You're right.
classroom. We have counselors with certificates, we
100%.
have people in this building with certificates. So, when we look at that, I mean, I think, obviously we're focusing on the teacher component of things, but I think that that's something that needs to be identified as well.
100%, you're right.
So-
But let's just say you get down to, you're at the teacher level, you have cut everything else.
Yeah.
Like, we have no
How
counselors,
would
we have no.
how would
PAs.
we delineate that? Is it everybody endorsed in that? Because you're right, if they say you have to cut at high school, you could be talking about you're bumping so is it everybody with a social studies?
But
And I
even
don't-
there though, like, can't we take it to the next level and say, could an experienced teacher that is highly qualified get an emergency certification, and somebody that is lower, like, why would you get rid of Becca? Let's just say Becca, she's, off the charts, amazing teacher, APE teacher, been in the district forever. Why would you get rid of her and then keep a poor teacher when she could get emergency certified to teach?
That's a broke question.
Something-
If you could get that done.
What do you mean
Because we
what
do
you
that
mean
all
a
the time.
poor
Like,
teacher?
Let's just say.
Oh, you mean
Let's just say that,
someone-
Not
that we
financially.
need. Let's just say that we need
It's been a long week.
a speech teacher, okay? And she could teach speech, and we're gonna cut Spanish. So instead of her losing her job, we'll emergency certify her to teach speech and get rid of the speech teacher because they've only been here for
But the state
3
has-
years.
do that.
The state has to approve that.
We cannot do that.
We cannot.
Yeah, because it literally
We
says
cannot
to
get rid of the
somebody
speech
else.
teacher for Rebecca to stay if we're getting
Even
rid
if
of the
they're a
Spanish
terrible
program.
teacher and she's
You can't do that.
highly
That's illegal.
qualified.
It's,
And you
can't do that.
Yeah, and you can't give preference because you've been here the longest.
Right,
Right.
you can't do the long.
There
But
can't
we
be-
could though get rid of me because I've taught here less years than her. If we cut Spanish, she could move into my position.
Only because she's endorsed in your position.
Right, that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that
if we
should be
cut
able
your
to be happening.
position,
There's nobody to move into it.
yeah,
The position's
gone.
it's gone.
Okay, I meant as in
So if,
if we're looking at the RIF policy,
Mhm.
and her and I are both in history, and we only need 1 history teacher instead of 2.
right,
But we're gonna cut Spanish, instead of me staying in history because I teach history and she's taught Spanish, she should be moved into history and I would be gone because she has more seniority than me.
You can't
No, it's
base
the
it
same
solely off of
situation.
seniority.
Yeah.
You would
But
have
she
to-
has.
You would have to
she'd
fill out
have-
the form.
Yeah,
That's where the form
you'd be
comes in.
scored, and however that score.
see, so Jason, the negative changes in the financial conditions of the district isn't necessarily us determining what programs we're getting rid of.
Yeah.
It's, this is the number of staff we can support financially.
Right, but number 1 says curriculum or program changes, so.
Correct, those are the
Yeah,
4
yeah,
scenarios
yeah,
that we
yeah.
would,
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're cutting 9.5 million, like we're cutting a lot more than probably 25 teachers. So, we
But
definitely have to get
we're not
this
cutting that much to put that
hammered
away.
out.
But that's why this is not
Yeah.
easy, it's not
Yeah.
designed to
Right.
be easy, because these are hard conversations.
Right.
But
Right.
you're right, when you're talking about certificated staff, it's not just, it's not instructional, I mean, it's SLPs, it's counselors, it's nurses, it's all of the above. So you could say you're gonna cut all nurses, and that's 6 positions, so now we only have to, if our number was 50, I mean, you could dwindle that down, but at some point, I do think we should talk about, and maybe that has to be here, and maybe it's a non-issue because we just say when we get to that point, then we can tweak it, but there could be scenarios where you do have, we're talking about instruction, and we're talking about, you know, the board says, okay, we have to cut 5 more teachers, and it has to be at the secondary level because that still maintains class sizes, so what could you absorb? And then it's, you know, the principals are saying, this person can teach math, this person, so that, because we all have to have all the graduation requirements, right? So I can cut a science and a social studies, then how do we determine that? Because is it what you're currently teaching? Is it what you're just endorsed in? Do you put everybody that's endorsed in that, even if you haven't taught? Like, that's the piece I don't, it's
See,
not clean.
I would think that from a board perspective, it would be, we need to remove 5 teachers at the category 2 level. And then you would score all the category 2
I feel like that's what you've been
positions.
saying the whole time.
That's, yeah.
But then Lisa
Okay.
said that was illegal.
No, it's not.
I'm just saying
It's not.
what was said.
Well, I know Lisa was talking about that, but I think where she was saying what her concern
couldn't be
was
solely based on-
regarding the legality was over here, where we were going through.
That's it there on number.
Category 2, 3, and on renewable contracts.
Yeah,
right.
where we're like going step here, then we're going into this big pool, and then we're swimming in all sorts of hot mess, where I think that legally, if you do category 1s because they don't have it, and then go to category 2, and then if all the category 2s are gone, then it's category 3. But I think what she was also trying to say is that if it's certificated, it's certificated, it doesn't matter where your category is. That is something I don't
That to
know
me
about.
makes more sense.
See, that's, yeah, and that's, yeah, where her and I were getting, I guess I wasn't clarifying if you decided category, you know, the category 2, you can't just say category 2, it would be category 2 plus all the other basic people in that same.
And that's where that
Don't
came
you feel
in.
like at one point we talked about it would be all category 2s and then you're filling out the form?
Yes.
So it isn't, that's how we start, but then, because the law just says it can't be the sole
Right.
reason.
Right.
But I
So if you have a
thought
category 2 at the
somebody
high
once-
score on the 4.
Somebody explain, I
Yeah.
can't remember who said this, but like, wouldn't you just start with category 2 first, and then all of the category 2s you fill out the form on? And then if you
Yeah.
still, if the board said we still have to, then you'd look at category 3s, and then you fill out the form on them. Like, I thought you said that.
I did, that,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think if you just do it that way, then you violate the law because of,
If you don't do the form, or if you do 2s with
If-
the form?
Well,
If it's only 2.
if it's
It's
just
only twos,
only
then it's-
solely 2s, because then that's the seniority thing.
That's the
Because
one
you're
I
only
like.
doing,
Okay.
but
Right.
that's why you include everybody else in that scores a basic. So it would be all secondary, it'd be all category 2s in that area, plus anybody else in the district that has the same endorsement at the high school level that also has a basic.
Okay.
And if they have a basic, then they're automatically now put in there to be
So
scored.
then it's not just.
And that's why it's not just seniority, and that's where we can get into it. But I think
Except
you're
we were
exactly
told
right.
nobody scores overall basic.
No, that's why he was just
No,
basic,
a
like
basic in
Saying
any
basic
category.
in
In
any
a
category.
In any category.
So not overall basic, but like
In a
there's
component.
16, like there's
I mean, it can be overall.
there's
basic,
16
but-
components, and if you scored a B in a couple of those
Yeah, if
16
you're basic in
components, then
any
that would
category.
toss you into this pool as well.
Okay.
And that's how I see it being ran. And then
I
if you
don't
still
do
need
math.
more people to riff, then you go category 3s, and the same way. And then you
I was
can go-
laughing because she said, I was like, there's actually 22.
There's 22. I'm like, I can't do math.
Do we even know how
I'm
many
not a math
category twos
teacher.
that we have?
So I think, I think we're on
We
the same
broke
page,
down how many
Michelle,
category
is,
twos we
and
have.
I know Lisa is too,
What is
because
called-
her and I just,
what-
she was,
Category 2 would be somebody
she was
that
thinking
came
I was saying
in,
just category twos by themselves, and that's
Could be
it.
their first
But
year,
I'm
or
not-
category 2
we're
because they were hired in
considering
June, or they could have teaching experience and they came in, and so they could be category 2, year 2, year 1, depending on it, anybody that's not a category 1. And then category 3 would be somebody with teaching experience, and districts could allow that, like somebody could come in brand new to the district, and they've had prior, they were tenured in another district, you could give them a category 3 contract. You don't have to go straight to 2.
So, if I'm a brand new teacher though, and I start as a category 2, how long does it take me to get to category 3 now? Is it 3 years?
Next year, if you're successful.
No, you could do category 2, year 1 and year 2, so it would be
Your third year.
But but wouldn't you only do that if, I mean, isn't that like a rewarded system? What would prevent her from going up to category 3?
I think we just normally just go through the step. We just do category 2, year 1, year 2, and then category 3.
Oh, really?
renewable.
So
That's my
Yeah, see, I don't-
I could be wrong.
I thought
That's
it was.
why I'm wondering.
I
like,
thought
do
it
we have
was.
a lot
I
of
thought it was
category twos?
consecutive because, from my experience, we're always talking to principals that the third year of that teacher being hired in the district is that key year that they
Well,
really
it's
have
the end of that year.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, so you better
I've
evaluate
never.
Category
fourth
1,
year.
or it would be category 2, year 1,
So your
year
fourth year would
2,
be
category, that's
category
the end of your third year. Your fourth year, you go to renewable contract.
Right.
Yeah,
So your first 3 years are non-renewable.
Okay.
yeah. It's different if you are category
So if you,
1.
okay, so you could be a category 2 with non-renewable contracts.
Mhm.
No.
So you're a 1 if you're hired after August. You could negotiate to come in as a 3 if you're experienced,
Mhm.
but
But
most
not-
are gonna come in
So let's
as a
just say
2.
that I taught for 10 years in a prior district
Right.
and I was hired after August. It doesn't matter that I have
That's-
experience in my category 1.
Right, right.
If
But
I
you're a
have-
brand new teacher hired in June,
I'm a category 2.
you're a category 2.
I'm
and-
a 10-year experienced teacher coming in, and I get hired in June, I'm a category 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
And you're a category 2 for approximately 3 years.
2 years.
2 years. On the third year, you.
Third year, you go to category 3,
Okay.
and then fourth
Yeah.
is renewable.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I almost think.
So if you're a first year category 2, you're not renewable. So you have no expectation.
No, you are.
Yeah.
Then what does the fourth year matter? You just said that was renewable.
I mean, you have property rights, like we still have, if you're a category 2 or a category 3, you still have some property rights. You're not on a renewable contract, like you still have to, like, there's less property rights, I
It's
guess.
easier to fire you.
Exactly.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. If you're a category 2, level 1, 2, or 3, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, so that would, are they necessarily
So in
guaranteed a contract?
In a
And that's what
category 2 situation, we would have to give you a letter saying that this is in the domain or component that you're struggling in.
So the
and
only way that you
there
would
has
want to
be
release
reason.
them is if there's
They can-
cause for
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not, okay,
Just- it-
yeah.
to-
There has to be cause for releasing them as opposed to
They have
a category
property-
1
they
where
have
it's just
some level
no
of property
expectation. Okay,
rights, yes.
okay, that's what I was trying to get to. Thank you. I wasn't quite understanding.
So I think in number 9 there, I mean, my opinion would be to where we have the crossed out in black category 2, 3. I would like to uncheck or on that, but I think we need Lisa here too, just to make sure that we're on the same page.
So uncross out where it starts with category 2 and ends with the
Yeah,
parentheses.
because that's what would happen is, so if there's going to be RIFs, then you start with category 2s and 3s, plus everybody else that has either an overall basic or a basic.
A basic and an individual component.
Right.
Yes.
And that could be so that'd be all elementary, K-8, or it'd be the people endorsed in that area at the high school level. And then once it goes from there, then we decide in the previous policy we had, you're looking at all renewable contract, years 4 through 10. But Michelle, I think we need Lisa here just to double check that that's how she sees it too. She may have another opinion, but I think her and I got on the same page in the end, and then we just didn't even check.
Well, I think Shannon was here and so there was a conversation about, does a basic automatically kick you out?
Right.
And so that's where
'Cause-
she gave a scenario where we're like, ugh.
And that's what you have to talk, because, I mean, life does happen every once in a
Right.
while, right? And
Right.
so a principal may say, well, you weren't here, I don't know the
So I'll throw
categories.
a wrench
well,
in this, could you just say that it would be an overall basic or an individual, basic on components in domains 2 or 3?
There you
Then that's
go.
about
I like
instruction.
There
that,
you go.
So it's
Yep.
not about 1 or 4,
Right.
it's just 2 or 3.
Yeah,
Yep, I like that.
yeah.
Because they could give you a volunteer for not volunteering outside of your contractual duties. or
Shannon,
whatever.
Josh, what do you guys think about that?
Well, technically, we didn't listen to this last part, but we were talking about, yeah, we were just, okay, like 30 seconds. We were,
I love it.
We were just debating, like,
He's making
Josh
a great
made
stir
point
fry
about,
tonight.
like,
No.
if someone's K-8, but then also 6-12, then if they're teaching at the high school, then would they be put into the elementary group? We were and so I said, well, how many people do you think have that? And so that was.
That would be interesting.
So what we said is right here where it says category 2s and 3s and then employees that have an overall basic or a basic and a component, that would be the first round. I
That's
said,
the second
are we
round.
saying specific to domain 2 and 3? Like
Yes.
would we be more comfortable to say if you were a teacher that got a basic in 2 or 3 because that's really about instruction?
Yeah, because I think that's, like last week, we talked
Right.
about this, but in opposite, so.
Exactly.
And I think that would deal with basically what Shannon LaFontaine was saying.
Right, because she had a valid point.
Yeah.
That's a good qualifier, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're a PE teacher and you're teaching elementary PE and you're only PE certified, do you,
Michelle, I think it's
do you get?
scored overall basic or not, or had basics in domains 2 and 3 because
Yeah,
overall
an
basic.
overall basic or
Yeah,
a basic.
But I guess.
A basic.
And it would be in domain 2 and or 3.
And then you're
So
gonna
this
need
is
a
the
glossary.
this
You're
is
gonna
the
have to
overall?
Explain to people what that all is. What is category 2, what is I don't think that the board would get that much in the weeds. I think that the board would look more of it as a whole. You only need 10 teachers left at this school. You only need
Yeah.
1 counselor here. I don't think that they're gonna be,
Yeah.
at least not from my, like, we don't know all that, right?
Right,
We're not.
right. But I feel like from the teacher standpoint, if we wanna, if they would know that, and so
Right.
then how do we make it, I feel like writing it down is helpful, cause then it just feels very fair.
Right, yeah.
It's not, yeah.
Except for now,
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna
you
be-
guys would just say,
Except for now, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be doing a survey and
Yeah.
emailing my counterpart to be like, by the way, how many endorsements do you have?
This is making me
What do you do in your off time?
More.
Exactly.
And I think it is fair, I mean, if
Scoring
somebody's
myself.
been in that position, teaching that thing, just because somebody else,
right,
some other school had the endorsement, but hasn't taught it in 5 years, I mean,
I think where the endorsement comes into play though is like when we were talking about possibly having to relocate or allocate.
yeah.
It is important that endorsements are made known and on the form it does give some points to additional
right.
endorsements to make, because that does make a teacher valuable.
Right, oh
even-
yeah, of course,
So
yeah.
if they're not.
But I would hate
Yeah.
to see somebody who's like been in that position.
Oh, yeah,
has
for sure,
rapport
yeah.
with the students,
Oh, yeah.
everything, like get moved,
Yeah.
you know.
yeah.
Is that correct? Individualized professional learning plan.
Professional, yeah, I think that's what it's called. The
Yeah.
IPLP, I don't know.
Yeah, but I would rather go teach health than lose my job.
Right.
So, and if I've been here longer,
Right.
and just because I haven't been given the opportunity to teach health, doesn't mean that I wouldn't go teach health.
I feel like this reads really well.
Yeah.
Is she reading
Oh,
She's muttering.
Okay.
Talking to herself again.
It looks good. I talk to myself all the time.
She's done.
I talk to myself a lot.
No, it's all good.
Sometimes it's the
Yeah,
only intelligent
you and I
conversation
wouldn't do
I
a lot of
get.
class together. We'd be like, ah.
Do what?
I said we wouldn't do good in a class together, because you would distract me.
Oh, if we were in classes together, probably. That's why I sit in the front of the room, so I cannot be distracted.
So
So
then you
then-
just jump to then all people.
Yes, is then if additional reductions are
And I would
necessary,
distract you too.
then all remaining contracted employees will be identified and scored. RIF considerations will start with the lowest score. I think we're getting there. Okay, so this is contract.
Remind me to do admin, would they go into this?
No, this is protective for teachers.
Each
Admins don't have any
employee
protections to it.
subjected
So they don't have a.
Even if we
to
were
a
promised,
RIF,
like
because
if
certain
you,
employees
If
shall-
they, if they've taught their career in Lakeland, they have.
that's
to.
what I, no, but,
Oh, you mean
no, but like, I mean,
Like,
we
like
like to
to
go
go
back.
back.
go back into the
Yes.
classroom?
Okay,
Yeah.
so we can
Yeah,
take this out.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you meant like if they were gonna.
No, I
It's the
understand, yeah, I
rubric is
understand,
the
like, if you
rubric.
come in as an
Right.
admin.
But I think a financial emergency.
Only
there's
if-
no-
Resources.
there's no-
Well, yeah, because those
Only
positions can be
go back
cut
if
even
the
prior to
principal
a
is let
financial
go.
For the
emergency.
position, for the possible
Well,
RIF.
it's
Yeah, but
different
like,
in a
okay,
RIF
so
situation.
let's
Maybe
use
released
Dustin as
based
an
on the
example.
number
Well, they had that
of
on the list of
such
the
employees,
vice principals.
Maybe
If
released
he-
in more in part in
If they were to
the school
get rid of one
programs.
of our vice principals and it could be Shannon
Then I would think he's
Dustin,
in
and
source
Dustin, but
categories,
he's been teaching in
position.
our district.
Yeah, the problem with Coeur
He
d'Alene
left
is
the
there's
classroom.
In a RIF situation.
That was one thing Megan
If
said, your business is
Dustin-
pretty simple.
if
So I
Dustin
think
was
we need
to get
maintain that
fired from
simplicity.
being a principal
So
or
I
forced to
think
resign
the
from being
number
a
15
No, that's
is
different.
No, I'm
basically
talking
saying
about-
We're just saying that,
You're gonna
Then
give them a
they don't have to
notification and
honor-
then you're gonna give them the
we do have
rubric. Like you're gonna give them the
principals
form.
that if they started
Because they
their
have
career
right to do the
at
process.
Lakeland,
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
and if
So I
they
think we just
resign
change it
or
versus
are forced to
profile and we
resign
say
or
the
told
RIF
that
form,
it's not-
the
they're not
completed RIF form.
renewed as a principal, then they have to guarantee him a position, teaching position.
Okay. Cause Shannon would also qualify for that too,
Yeah.
because she was teaching up at Timberlake.
Mhm.
So, and Jimmy, like, because he was teaching at
That's
he
you.
was the middle school.
Right.
So, that's what I'm asking, like,
I
would they
would-
be
I
then
would
be put
think
into
so,
that
yeah.
pool
I would think so, yeah. I think they'd have
to make sure that they're protected too?
Right,
I
they-
mean,
yeah.
that wouldn't be right.
to, you know, unless we didn't like them, and then, you know.
okay. Now we're on top of red.
Well, I think.
Same with the counselor too.
But I mean, well, and the red came from Coeur d'Alene,
Somebody that
which
was
we were
in the
told,
classroom.
we being, me,
Yeah.
by attorney, was quite convoluted, where ours was not.
Okay.
So a lot of this, I think, needs to go away. However, what I do know is that, when we create that list, we need to notice the people on the list that, hey, we're considering a RIF and your name is in the pool.
Mhm.
So can I ask a question about that? And I think it was Delaney that brought it up several times ago. So, based on what Megan said last night, financial emergency, you know, because we're waiting on JFAC, we're waiting on, it's probably
Right.
like May. Is there a scenario where we plan and say, okay, if there was a whatever happens with the not, you know, rerun or not, whatever, we still have to build a budget with a 9.52. So is there a scenario where we front load and say, we're going to tentatively say, this is how many teachers, how many, you know, certified staff, whatever, where we can't formally give them a RIF notice, right, until you have determined the fact, but we can front load all of that so that we are notifying those people that you
100.
potentially will be on this RIF list. Like, can we do that work before May?
I
Or
don't,
do you feel
I
like
don't
we
know
have
that,
to wait?
I don't know that you
We
can
can-
notify the people though.
No, I just feel like we're not gonna even tell them that we're not gonna say anything to them.
Well, if they're gonna, I think
I think they probably already see the
If
writing on
they-
the wall.
I mean, several people sat here and asked
if they're
Michelle
gonna,
that
they
question.
can say if they're gonna, if the RIF, or if the levy doesn't pass and we're looking at that, if there's a program to be cut, they could say that, I think. And they can say how many employees am I wrong?
I think it'd be
in that, or
staff, to
can-
tell you the truth. Here's the reality. The law says 1.5% reduction of the overall budget.
Yeah.
Mhm.
unless you get 9.52 million, anything you run's gonna be that 1.5, everything
Right.
we've talked about,
Right.
so.
But now but do you have to file a state of emergency if you're at
We-
1.5? I mean,
Not if we can
don't
cut
have
the
to
two.
RIF if we are at only a 1.5.
Well, this is what I think has been challenging for me to convey, I guess. I don't have a problem declaring a financial emergency, because just because we declare a financial emergency does not require us to go into a RIF.
Right.
We can declare the financial emergency and say, we have a shortfall of money.
Okay.
What would be the
Ta-da.
benefit of declaring it though? What would be the plus side to declaring it? If we run and I know this is off script, but if we run the levy for 7.5, which is the number that's been bantered around, or even 7 million, whatever the case may be, and we're able to find a way to cut the 2.5 million from various situations and whatnot, and we are successful and pass it, which we're all hopeful that will happen. Well, then we've cut what we needed to cut.
Right.
We have the 7 million that we needed. What would be the upside to declaring any sort of financial emergency if really we wouldn't be in one at that stage? Because we've gotten rid of what we needed to. We got the money that we needed to continue running our operational costs. I guess the question mark becomes the
Why would you
upside.
need
Why
to
would we
file?
need to
What would
declare
be
a
the
financial
benefit of
emergency at that point?
Wouldn't it be being proactive in case? From what I understood last night from Megan, was that process takes time.
Right.
And so what was the time she was saying that we wouldn't get notification from the state until May? So if we didn't start that process until after we received the levy results,
Mhm.
would we have enough time to have a budget and be ready for the school year 25?
But you can create a budget without
Yeah, I think
filing
it's-
a state of emergency.
Yeah, I think it's the board's intention, and the state, and the emergency thing would be for negotiation of salary and benefits. I mean, that really, if we're gonna be honest, that's what it's about. So
Right.
you can go back and look at the numbers, because here's the thing, in 2 more years, what are we
Oh
gonna
yeah,
do?
no, I know. This is gonna be an ongoing
like-
And I
situation for
just-
sure.
Yeah.
my whole point
I was
of
just
bringing
wondering
this
from
up-
this perspective, if
So what
we
you're
run the
saying
levy,
is
we have
you
the money,
would-
we're golden, what would be the upside?
But
And so
you're
that's what
saying
it comes
that,
down to, brass
yeah,
tacks.
it would be
Okay.
a benefit to the board to put us in a state of emergency, because then you could basically null and void our whole negotiated agreement, is what you're saying.
Or just salary
Well, we
benefits.
would, no, we
Just salary
would go
benefits.
to
For
the-
salary and benefits
Yeah.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah, we would go back to, same thing we do every year at IDP,
Yeah.
basically, you
And
know.
my whole point of bringing that up was, I mean, best case scenario, we run it and it passes, but because of the timeline, Jessica will have to build
Right,
something.
yeah, no.
So it just feels, that doesn't feel good.
Right.
To not be able to have some people, I don't know,
Right.
I don't want it to we have to wait, cause I think the levy date would be May 20th or something like
Right.
that.
No, I just was
I
trying to
don't-
figure out what
it's
the.
way
It's
the upside.
March.
Yeah.
30.
Right, but
yeah.
we don't know the outcome of that, right? And so we have to build a budget
Yeah,
regardless.
yeah,
And so
yeah, for sure.
if we don't start this work
Right,
until
oh, for sure.
after
No, I
that,
understand.
then we're not telling
Well,
teachers
We're beyond
until.
scrambling.
Yeah. no, for
Right, so
sure.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
what, I guess my question, because we're talking about the RIF, I don't wanna have
Yeah.
a conversation
Right.
that
Yeah, yeah.
gets anybody in trouble
Right.
because we're not at a board meeting,
Right.
but
Right.
how do we front load, is there work that we can front
Yeah.
load, I guess is my question, so that it is a little bit more streamlined? It doesn't feel good to not,
Give
on
people
categories
the
two,
heads up potential.
Yeah.
I guess the question
Yeah.
would be because if you're saying we're already 25 teachers,
right?
right?
I
This-
just, that's
these
So,
the
like-
number.
numbers, yeah.
Right, but let's just say we're at 25 teachers, I guess the question would be is, can the board say, all right, if it doesn't pass, we're gonna have to RIF 25 more teachers, so if you are a category 2, you might wanna start looking for other jobs, because you're gonna go into a pool. There's a possibility you will not have a job. I think that should be a message that's conveyed to
Yeah, I think that's
That's
what.
We
employees.
can't do that, though, that's why we,
Yeah, that's- yeah.
this
You have to
this
go
language,
that
right.
category 2, 3, and
Yeah.
basically,
And
we had a couple of people ask that question the last few
yeah.
times of
'Cause they
just,
want-
at what point I know we can't officially do anything,
No, not
but
officially.
because that date is so late, what can we front load? And that's just my question,
Yeah.
through the lens of this, what are those pieces that we're comfortable doing, knowing that everybody's gonna be waiting for that May date, but if we don't do anything prior to that, or
Yeah.
we wait, then we're really gonna feel like we're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
I think that was the point there again, like you said, we're not a board meeting, but I think the
Yeah.
point of building the two budgets was basically just that.
Okay.
Is that, you know, here's what it looks, great scenario, and then we can
Yeah.
pick away at it for the next few years and figure out
Yeah.
something. And here's what it looks
Okay.
like if it doesn't go
Yeah.
through. And I think that's what the whole
Yeah.
point of the two
Right.
budgets is, so
And
that
then
it-
maybe we can start, like, these are the things so that people just
Well, if they
have-
see those positions or see those things on that list, then they have kind of the heads up, I think,
Right.
you know.
Cause I think that you can play both sides
Yeah.
of it, like, I don't necessarily wanna tell people
Yeah.
to go find another job, but then I think you'll have more people that do that because they're fearful
Yeah,
versus.
100%.
not-
Yeah.
you
And in
know.
a sense, that would ultimately help the district situation, because then they don't have to rip those people out, they're gone anyway. I mean, you
But
know
we'll
what
be
I'm
losing
saying?
good teachers, and
So
that's
you're
what
not
we're,
gonna-
yeah,
That's
that's what
good.
it's
Yes.
Well, I mean,
supposed to be.
what I have heard from multiple board, nobody wants to rip anybody, like, we're gonna try to do stuff to hopefully prevent that from happening. And, you know, this year we do have between category ones and resignation or retirements, as of right now, I mean, that number, we're looking at 25. We can't absorb all of those, but maybe we have to get creative, like, so, you know, we haven't had years where we have 25 category ones and resignation retirements, and again, that number could increase because it's only January, and people might decide I'm retiring, you know, so, you never know.
How early do you benefit in early retirement?
There's no early retirement from the state. I called and asked. Not for me, sorry, but, I was asked if just are there incentives, cause Idaho used to provide something,
Right.
that sounded really great.
Yeah, they used to,
They used to,
provide.
right, and they don't anymore. I've had a few people ask that question, so I did reach out to find out if they still incentivized an early retirement, they don't.
Well, I know that a lot of the questions moving forward too that are going to arise is all of this money that they're talking about in Boise sending towards the different, you know, districts and things. I think that's going to throw a big giant wrench in
I
the.
think that was Megan's whole point last
Yeah,
night, is
it's
you
gonna
have to
be
wait for
huge,
Dave
yeah.
back because
Yeah.
they're throwing these numbers
Yeah.
around, and what
Yeah,
if,
and that's what
what
takes
if
time.
Well.
they come back and they say, you know, we're gonna give districts an additional 1.5 or 2.3.
Mhm.
I mean,
But you
that
can
could
have
happen.
but you can have your ducks in a row.
Well,
I
that'd be
think.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome if we
Yeah.
take it.
right,
You
right,
know?
right.
But it's important for us to get our.
I just wanna have as many ducks in a row
Mhm.
as we can
For sure.
systematically, so that it feels like we just know what the next step is and it doesn't feel like we're scrambling.
The bottom line is where where the frustration is that they say, okay, you know, you have this many support units, but we're only gonna pay you this much per
Yeah.
unit. It's like, well, we can't be competitive, you can't live in this county on that, and that's, so where you're always coming up, you know, with other funds and ways to pad that to keep the people. That's really where the problem is.
100%.
Is that we
Right.
don't get the money to pay.
I said that multiple times.
Right.
I mean,
So
Yeah.
Michelle, do you say then that we should just like delete all this red business?
Well, I was reading through, because there is things that have to happen.
Mhm.
So like if there ever is a RIF and we determine these
Yeah.
people are going, then
There's a process.
HR has to notice them that
Yeah.
you are being RIFed, and they have to give them their score sheet and the policies and procedures. And that person has the right to a due process
Right.
hearing. And so we have to let them know these are the steps.
But you're saying this is
So,
just a little too much.
it's
Like
very
we can
convoluted.
streamline
And
it.
the other piece that we talked about is if there was a situation where, let's just say the state came back and gave us another $1 million and we ripped people and we wanna bring them back.
Right.
And we said we were gonna put in some language about what's that selection process
Right.
look like. Because wouldn't you go to those people first? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Don't you have to? Doesn't the law say if you riff and then that position comes back open,
Then
there's
you'll
something in the
you'll
law
yeah,
that,
you'll notify them.
yeah. I thought, when I was reading state law.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked
But if the
about that
principal
last
doesn't want
time.
them back,
Right.
how does that work?
Well, you notify them. I don't know. It says you have to guarantee
I
them
know
a
that.
position. I
All
think you have to
sunshine, but
notify
I'm
them that
not
there's an
everybody's
opening.
cup of tea.
But I don't know.
While Michelle is doing that, do you guys want me to print off, Marie and I can print off,
The new form?
a form,
Okay.
and then maybe Jason can help me, we can come up with like 5 scenarios just to play around with the whole endorsing piece. And then we kind of walk through that scoring piece just to get a sense of,
what that would look like.
Do you feel like that would be helpful? Yes?
Yes, please.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's even, again, like we were talking about down here, like there's scenarios too where you might have a PE teacher that is only PE, and they're doing elementary, and they have more experience in the district than.
I think I'm gonna have Brooke write us the
Secondary.
scenarios because she's the one
Yeah.
that does all the endorsement stuff.
Yeah.
And
Say that
then
again, though,
tell
what?
me where it
Where are
would
you
get
going with that?
convoluted.
K-12 PE teacher.
If we have a K-12 PE teacher and we decide we're gonna cut PE at the elementary, shouldn't they then get the opportunity to go up to the secondary if
I would think so.
they
They'd be.
have more experience
Yeah.
than,
Then-
say, a PE teacher that's in our district?
But here's
That's
where
at the
that
secondary?
gets tricky because it says, provided that, however, no transfer shall result in the termination of another employee.
But it's the same endorsement though,
It is the same endorsement, but if there's not a position available at the secondary level,
but they've cut the PE.
at the elementary.
That's what I'm saying, like, we just need to consider this, I mean, I don't know.
Right, but if you have a PE teacher at the secondary who's only
But they-
6 through 12,
But they can teach,
they wouldn't have been put into the pool of the K-12.
what I'm saying
Well,
though
it's
is that PE
certificated
teacher
according to the law.
that's
Isn't
teaching
it?
elementary
That's
can
what
go
they call it,
teach
elimination
at
of
the
the
Secondary.
secondary.
So you're saying that all the PE teachers should have been.
I would say you
put in the
make,
same
would
pool.
score
you're
all
gonna
the
say a RIF, and then.
You
I
just
mean,
score
you're-
all the PE
You're
teachers.
just scoring them all, and they're gonna land where they land, and you're not.
That's what I'm saying is that,
Yeah.
like, this is one of those scenarios, if we're talking about scenarios that we might not just think
Yeah.
is gonna happen, like, that could happen.
Yeah, it could.
I mean,
What was that?
I can think of PE teachers.
If we
that
have like
teach
a
elementary
K-12 PE
that have
teacher
more
and
experience
the elementary
than-
program gets cut, that teacher technically would be eligible to teach at the high school level. So then would that be a scenario where all PE teachers get put into the pool? But there are some PE teachers that might not be K-12, they might just be 6-12, and so then how does that fall?
PE is all K-12.
Is it K-12? Okay, I don't know.
Sure.
I thought that too, but I just pulled up.
Elementary, you can be
Cody's an
K-8,
elementary
you can be
teacher. I used to
K-8 and
teach
teach
PE.
PE.
No, I know that, but I think if you're certified in just PE,
I'm saying
do they have it
certified.
separated?
Yeah, so Sean, because I know Stacy's K-12, but Sean is 6-12.
So would he be tossed into the pool
So if
of RIF
Stacy was
people?
teaching-
So this is what
let's
we're
just
talking
say,
about, because I
I don't know.
think
Fourth
Stacy
grade,
would be losing her elementary
and
job, but
she's
she could
been
teach at the
here
secondary.
forever,
But Sean's
and then
only
they cut it at
6-12, so would
elementary,
he be
like-
in competition with
Yeah, I
Stacy
thought
for a
they were all-
position?
I would think that she would
I
then
hope
get
I
a
never have to
secondary
answer that.
Yeah.
That would make for a very tough dinner conversation. Sorry, honey, only one of us gets to stay.
It says 33-522A does have what she was talking about. It says each school district may adopt a policy establishing an equitable method of recalling individuals subject to a RIF if positions become available subsequent to the RIF. So yes, we could write that, and then, whatever, probably, I guess you just go back to whatever the points were
Yeah.
and say, yeah. And the other thing is it does say, so I don't know where they're getting you can't do this straight across, because it does say in the examples in 33-522A, it does say when it says when there is one or more of the following. So these are the RIF, and this is the definition of RIF: the elimination of the certificated staff position or positions, or a position or percentage of a position or positions. And then it gives you, and it does say the elimination of a position by category. That
As long
is,
as you have more than one.
It doesn't say that.
no, it doesn't say that. It just,
Isn't
it
that
says,
what you said the attorneys that you talked to said it was
Yeah.
fine?
Yeah.
yeah.
It
And it
is.
says,
Lisa said that she talked to Megan, and Megan said that's not.
well, that's what it says
Megan's
right
wrong.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I had 3 different lawyers look at it, and they all said the same thing except
Yeah,
Megan.
the elimination of an entire program or portions of a program, that's one.
Yeah.
Or the elimination of positions in a certain grade level only.
Mm-hmm.
Or the elimination of position by category, or the elimination of a position in an overall review of the district. So, which is probably like a program thing, I would think.
Right.
And then it's, goes through the decision, blah, 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 blah. So,